Hey everyone, welcome to the January Fragrance Awards. If you are newer to my channel, this is a video that I do every month to share with you many of the fragrances that I wore over the past 30 days or so and put them into these fake award categories just for perfume fun and entertainment. None of this is to be taken super seriously. I usually post this video at the end of the month. The reason that I'm posting it today is because I have a very special sale to announce tomorrow. So those of you that are really into the more popular houses, and wink wink, one of the houses that has prices that are going up into the $400 range, if you know what I'm saying. There's going to be a video that's going to drop tomorrow with a special link to a sale, a lovely sale on that house and a few other popular ones. Stay tuned. The first category is the best for the season, and I have to feature a fragrance that I've talked about quite a bit in recent videos, so pardon the repetitiveness and I will keep it short. And that is French Defense from Mind Games. This is primarily a cherry amber boozy fragrance that has some hints of woodiness in it. The cherry is very sweet and quite sexy here. Some people think that this leans a little bit masculine, others would say it leans feminine, and then others would say it's squarely unisex in the middle. For me, it does have some masculine touches, but I love the sweetness from the cherry and the sort of gentleness of the syrupy amber here. Give this enough femininity for me to really feel comfortable wearing it. It lasts a really long time and it projects well and has gotten compliments from the very picky people in my house. So this is a crowd favorite here. In the category of best everyday is one that I haven't talked about in a while and quite frankly haven't reached for in a while. And I'm glad that I picked it back up because I remembered how much I liked it. And this is from Salt and Stone. It's called Bergamot and Hinoki. So the fragrance here, there are some notes here that I don't think that I particularly pick up, but it's very citrusy. There's a little bit of grapefruit. So think about how grapefruit has a little bit of zing. It smells clean and there's a slight bit of tartness to it. So you get that and you get other citrus, very light. And then there's that beautiful hinoki note. And it's supposed to have amber and a few other notes that I don't pick up or pick out of the composition. For me, this is very, very light, a very refreshing fragrance and uplifting. And it's funny with this because when I first purchased it, I think it was last summer from Sephora in one of the sales, or maybe late spring of 2024. And at the time, I described this as a very light wearing fragrance and perhaps sort of fleeting. Well, I have to eat my words because when I recently wore this, I sprayed it on in the morning and it was probably dinner time or a little bit later. And my husband mentioned that he still smelled it on me and that it smelled really good. So this is one of those light, easy, breezy, beautiful CoverGirl kinds of fragrances that sits closer to the skin, apparently does last a lot longer than I thought at first. And it's just really easy citrus, a little bit of woodiness. And I love that the Hinoki here, it's almost like a humid, linear wood smell. It reminds me of the smell of the inside of spas that are wooden, that kind of wet wood smell. So beautiful scent, very easy. Then for the special occasion fragrance, there were several contenders for this, including French Defense and some of the other ones I'm going to talk about soon. But I'm going to go with Amouage Overture. I have to say, this is a very bold, punchy, in your face fragrance. And if you're faint of heart about fragrances, or if you want something that's fairly predictable, this is not going to be for you. Definitely one to try first. This also can go in a category coming up called Not a Safe Blind Buy. So for those of you that have, I was going to say expenturous. Yes, it is expensive and it is adventurous, but adventurous tastes, do try this out. There are a lot of notes for the fragrance, and I can tell you that what I pick up is this beautiful, clean apple smell, a gorgeous, deep, but very punchy rose. I definitely get a kind of a leather, and it's to me a very soft, round leather. Not soft in that you don't smell it. I mean, in terms of the feel and the texture of the leather nuance in here, it feels soft, even though the fragrance overall is in your face. Let me look at some of these other notes here so I can share with you. There's cinnamon, there's myrrh, frankincense. Definitely, you get some sort of spiciness and something dark and mysterious here. This is gorgeous, absolutely cold weather or cool weather. This is not one that I would feel very comfortable wearing in the heat of summer, the high heat of summer. Definitely fall and winter appropriate. As with many Amouages, this is a projecting and long-lasting fragrance, quite beast mode, so spray lightly with this one. And yes, it's expensive at retail, but you can definitely find this at discount. In fact, by the way, I always forget to say, all of the fragrances are going to be linked below in the description box and with links so that if you're interested in shopping those links, you can do that. In the category of sexiest, and I heard a rumor that this is being discontinued. Gosh, I hope not because it is one of my all-time favorites. This is Dior Addict, the Eau de Parfum. Now, this smell, ooh, sorry about that. This has to be one of the most intoxicating, come hither, let me wrap you up in a sensual hug fragrances. The primary notes called out on the Dior site are orange blossom, jasmine, which is interesting because I don't really get I get a very sort of subtle, soft floral nuance in this fragrance, but it's not jasmine dominant for sure. And then bourbon vanilla. Some people have described this as a green vanilla. I do think it has a very, very faint touch of greenness, but this is more than anything a very, very opulent, like decadent, warm vanilla, slightly floral, just sort of thick fragrance. This is the only fragrance that has garnered me the compliment that I smell expensive. And I've gotten that twice at this point. So I don't know what's happening with this fragrance that people pick that up, but this is a very mature, super sexy fragrance. And it projects quite a bit and it lasts and lasts and lasts. One of the most beautiful, super duper sexy date night, apparently smell expensive fragrances. The next category is the biggest surprise. And when I tell you that I was surprised, maybe even shocked. So, if you've been with me for a while, you may remember me talking about Marc Gebauer fragrances. So, this is someone who is known for watches and has ventured into fragrances. And in a video a while back, I mentioned that, oh my gosh, I received a fragrance that came in PR and it was a very, very long box and thin. And when I opened it, there was an actual full sized axe, like an axe that you would chop wood with. And I was shocked. And so apparently this brand continues to go for shock factor. And I once again received a PR package, opened it up, and I have to put a picture in here that had it was like a mini security vault. And it had a bunch of tennis balls. I cannot imagine how much this brand is spending on PR items, the packaging, and then how much it costs to mail this. So thank you, Marc Gebauer. I ended up passing this along because it is masculine. I have to say this actually smelled really nice, not for me. Our oldest son took it. It is the line under Marc Gebauer that's called The Nose Behind. Interesting name. And this one is called Tennis Green. So I won't describe it, just to say that this is sort of one of those generic male fragrances that reminds me a little bit of the 90s. It smells great, but the reason that it's in this video is because that PR was incredibly shocking when I opened it. And if I end up staying on PR after everything I've had to say, I'm curious what comes next in the mail. Then we go to my favorite blind buy. This is a fragrance that I actually purchased, I think a few years ago, but it was a blind buy, and so it qualifies for this category. This is La Vie est Belle INTENSEMENT. I really, really like this fragrance, and it has stood the test of time. As you can see, I haven't worn it a bunch, I would say maybe a handful of times, and really enjoy it and sort of fall in love with it all over again every time that I wear it. This is predominantly a really cozy, soft raspberry, very gentle iris, and majority vanilla and sandalwood base here. In the note structure is also jasmine absolute. I don't know that the jasmine really stands out to me. It's more like a play between that raspberry and iris and vanilla for me. So this is one of those fragrances that could have been in the sexiest category. Very, very pretty fragrance, incredibly highly feminine. And I would say it's also super sweet as a fragrance. You don't need a lot to enjoy this fragrance. There's an intimacy to this fragrance, and it projects pretty decently when you first wear it and then sort of starts to get closer and closer through the wear and last a long time. Quite a gorgeous fragrance. In the category of not a safe blind buy, I'm going to go with Bon from the House of Beau. Beautiful bottle, very, very expensive. If I remember correctly, the ones that have these kinds of tops on them from the house are over the $300 mark. So super duper pricey. Sometimes they run 15 and 20% off sales, but they're rare. So watch the site for that. These are also at retailers if you want to keep an eye on them there and see if they're giving discounts. Anyway, the reason that this is in the category is because from the notes, people would think that this is a gourmand leaning fragrance. And I think that it has some gourmand touches, but I wouldn't call it a gourmand edible fragrance. So I'm not looking at the notes, so this is going off the top of my head. This has, for me, some aspects that feel a little bit like shave cream in smell, something that is maybe in the mixture of a latte with a very soft nuance of chocolate. There are some floral aspects, and I want to say a little bit of muskiness. So it's a really interesting fragrance. I don't know that a lot of people would love this. I do think it's beautiful in its own right, but definitely one that needs to be tried out first. The next category is overhyped, and I do enjoy this fragrance and will keep it, but I think maybe the craze around this fragrance, at least maybe a few years ago, was just out of control and a little bit overdone, in my opinion. This is LIRA from Xerjoff. I do love this bottle. I think it is really pretty. It's nice to handle. I love the little tassel-y thing, and I love the Xerjoff tops. Now, we have had a lot of sweet pastry-like lemony vanilla fragrances on the market lately. So maybe this one isn't getting as much love as like Bake and Devotion and those types. Okay. This fragrance is nice. It really is. It is, for me, a very soft, delicate vanilla. I feel like there is a pretty decent but delicate, soft, to use that word again, delicate, soft, round, lemony, sugary lemony aspect to this. However, this fragrance is very sort of soft. Now, I will say that I'm sometimes surprised that people can still smell this on me. I had that experience recently with this fragrance, but I do feel like the longevity on this fragrance is lacking, and I wish it projected even more. So it's a very soft, sort of pillowy, cloud-like, sweet, lemony vanilla. And I would say maybe a little bit more lemon than vanilla for me, but it's nice, okay? Slightly overhyped, slightly overhyped. I have a hidden gem to share. It's from Tory Burch and it's called Divine Moon. I think I talked about this in one of my recent designer videos. And so, ah, this is such a lovely combination of a very, very gentle honey. It's almost like a thin honey. So, honey in fragrances can have a high sort of viscosity. It can feel thick, it can feel cloying, it can feel heavy. I feel like the honey here is artistic. I feel like it's thin. I feel like it's wispy, and it adds this beautiful, sweet, soft femininity. And there's also this sort of soapy slash hairspray smell here that I think works really well. For me, it's great. I think some other people, I was looking at reviews on this, some other people may find that part of the fragrance experience to feel a little bit plasticky. So I want to put that out there, but I don't get that. I felt like this was a fresh, uplifting, honey, slightly floral, maybe sort of like I said, soapy, hairspray type of experience that felt really nice. There was a freshness, a vibrancy to this, a lightness to it that I thought was really great. It didn't last a long time, but I got a good half day wear out of it, and I think it's worth checking out. This retail, I think, is about $150, but it will show up on discount sites if you're interested in a discount on this. The category of worth hunting down, I don't always have something for that category, but I do today, and it is Patchouli Aromatique from Laison Lancome. What is wrong with me? Maison Lancome, pardon me. And I happen to have the bottle that has the two plaques on it. So this line at one point had plaques that had specific sort of imagery, graphics, or cutouts or whatever that represented some of the notes in the fragrance. So here is a beautiful, very perfumey, feminine, glorious patchouli. This is one of the most beautiful patchoulis that I have tried. It is predominantly a soft, round, supple. It's such a supple patchouli, and there's a woodiness to this. It also has a little bit of an aromatic touch, not heavily, but just enough to make this interesting. Pardon all of the fingerprints on this. Gross. This is a lovely, projecting, long-lasting fragrance. It smells so rich and decadent to me. It gives me very much 1980s vibes, 80s to early 90s perfumes, where it smells strong, it smells feminine, it has this sort of deep, almost like a sweetness to it, even though there aren't sweet notes to talk of in this fragrance that I know of. In fact, it almost smells like a sweet, ambery depth to it. Anyway, if you are a patchouli lover, a woody patchouli lover, you must check this out if you can. Problem is that this is discontinued and it's often just sold out. Every once in a while, you'll see a little batch of these show up on sale on the gray market. So if you see it and you like this kind of profile, snag this. Trust me that it is one of the most beautiful fragrances ever. This is for the grown. Okay, so if you like youthful smelling fragrances, not for you, not for you. In the category of best bottle, I really do love the House of Sillage bottles, and this one is no exception. This is Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman! Where are my 80s people who watched the original Wonder Woman with Linda Carter, where she would flip around, turn around, and show up as beautiful Wonder Woman? I mean, she was beautiful before she transformed into Wonder Woman. I love the Wonder Woman get up, the whole costume. I loved the 1980s Halloween costumes where you had the plastic face on and the sort of plastic suits and things. Anyway, that's a throwback from the past. This is such a pretty bottle. There were two versions of Wonder Woman released by House of Sillage. Did I try the first one? Maybe I did at some point. I don't remember. But this fragrance is one of the prettiest, pretty girl. This is pretty, pretty girl. In fact, this could be a pink bottle instead of red. So gorgeous. Now, the primary notes, definitely a vanilla base to it. There is this sort of powdery muskiness that is light. It's not like a powder bomb, but the powder and the musk sort of have this, like if you think about how clouds lift in the air, there's something lifting about those notes. And then it also has a really sweet raspberry note. I would say this is primarily raspberry, vanilla, and then just those soft aspects that I mentioned. And it is a soft wearing fragrance, although I feel like this lasts a long time. For me, we're talking about almost a full day wear on this, full work day anyway. And it's very sweet, very demure, very mindful. Seriously though, super duper pretty fragrance. Now, these cupcakes come out in the $400 range. Oh my gosh. But House of Sillage is always running sales. And when I looked today, this one was at $205, which I think is more than worth it if you are a Wonder Woman fan or if you like the idea of a raspberry vanilla. If you have tried Hufflepuff, this is a lot for me like Hufflepuff, but trade out maybe like the coconut note that's in Hufflepuff with something more fruity raspberry and a very light fruity raspberry at that. It is not pronounced. Beautiful. I don't have anything in the worst bottle category. In fact, all of my bottles this time around, I think were quite nice. So we're gonna go on to the low, the medium, and the high fragrances. Now, I hate to put this in the low because I feel like I need to give this more chances. I saw reviews on this and people raved about how beautiful it is. When I first tried it, I was like, ooh, this is magnificent. Sprayed it on, doused myself in it. I was staying home. I do not believe in dousing myself if I'm going out in public. I want to be thoughtful about how I am showing up in spaces and not having people wilt and die around me because my fragrance is loud. But if I'm home, I will go ham on something. And I did on this, which was a problem. I think that was my problem, and I need to try to spray lightly on this and see what happens. Enough buildup. This is from Boucheron, and this is Quatre Iconic. I hope I said that right. I don't think it's Quatre. Quatre. This fragrance is so hard to describe. The notes sounded so promising. Ginger and tuberose and amber, other florals. So I have to tell you, when I sprayed this, give me a second. I need to look at something. Yeah, I was looking at the reminds me of section, and people have in there Black Orchid. I don't know what Black Orchid people are smelling. I don't feel like this is very similar to that. Maybe there's an aspect that is similar. I would not think of Black Orchid as sort of a swap out for this by any means. I do feel like this reminds me of something from the past. It reminds me of an 80s scent or maybe something in the 90s. Please, someone help me. Maybe even something that was formulated in the 70s and stuck around into the 80s. If you have tried this fragrance, please try to describe it in the comments for us. I can't say that I really pick up tuberose or amber or ginger or any. Let me see what else. What are the other notes that are claimed here? Patchouli, Peru balsam, pink pepper, mandarin orange, etc., etc. This comes across powdery. I do get some sort of patchouli in the background. So that is probably what is connecting this fragrance, I would think, to black opium. It does smell kind of earthy. It has powderiness. There's definitely florals, but I don't pick up tuberose in particular. In fact, for me, this has almost like some mixture of iris and violet. And it's like very, very interesting when you put it on. It's one of these fragrances that makes you go, oh, what is that? However, the problem came probably at the sort of 6 to 8 hour mark. This thing was going and going like the Energizer Bunny. I had oversprayed myself. I sat down on the couch to watch whatever series we had on that night, and my husband said, your fragrance is not aging well. He was pretty disturbed by it. And I felt pretty bad about it because I know that it was loud. So I'm not sure what's happening with this, but I definitely want to try it again. I do love these bottles. I love this sort of edging down here. It reminds me of the Girl of Now bottles, if you remember those. And I really, really like that to get to the atomizer, you twist this down And there you go. Very, very pretty bottles. So we will give this another try. Stay tuned. Right now, it's sitting in the low category. In the medium category is a fragrance that I happen to enjoy quite a lot. My husband isn't so crazy about it. He doesn't dislike it, but it's not his favorite. And so that's why it's in the medium category, because then I feel uncomfortable wearing it because he doesn't like it. So, and we spend a lot of time together. It's so funny. Like some people are like, who cares what your husband thinks? Why would you not care about how the people around you receive your fragrance? Do you want to be stinking up in front of your family and friends? Do you want your kids hating to hug you because they don't like your fragrance? I don't understand that mentality. To some extent, I like to wear fragrances that I like, even if other people don't like them. But I want to be very mindful about when and why I wear those and not be up in other people's faces that I know can't stand these fragrances. I feel like that's kind of rude. Let me know what you think below if you feel differently. It's all right if you do. Anyway, this is Juliette Has a Gun, Ode to Dullness. I really like this bottle because it's such an interesting name, and the name sort of correlates to the sort of gray blue ombre effect here that ends down in this sort of like pinky purpley clear ombre bottom. Anyway, the fragrance. Oh my God, I'm having so much trouble opening these today. It's primarily a sandalwood base, a very sort of soft, creamy sandalwood. There's cashmere, and cashmere is designed to smell like cashmere. It's sort of soft, like it's made out of, I think, some, are there the molecules supposed to mimic some wood notes? I don't remember, but it has a really sort of soft, fuzzy texture to it. I believe there's tonka bean in the fragrance as well. It's soft. It reminds me of, this is going to sound crazy, a bit of a more unisex Yum Pistachio Gelato, which is actually coming up next. Maybe that's why it's on my mind. It's almost like if you took out the very girly aspects of Yum Pistachio Gelato and added a little bit of creamy sandalwood, you would understand what this fragrance smells like. It's very much a cozy sweater weather fragrance for me, and I really like it. And I like the name Ode to Dullness, which is an ode, an honoring of just a simple everyday. And this is, for me, a simple everyday fragrance. And so I just wear it sparingly because I know it's not super loved. Again, my husband doesn't dislike it, but he's always like, I don't know if I love that fragrance on you. And in case you're wondering, I give him the same critique. Every time he puts something on, I'm telling him I love it, I think it's okay, or he needs to take it off. So we're really blunt with each other about our fragrance preferences. All right, so we're gonna move on to the top fragrances of the month. Of course, some of the ones I've mentioned are top fragrances too. So this is just kind of a catch-all category for me to talk about fragrances that I also love that weren't in the other awards. So I didn't bring this next one into the filming room. Forgive me, I forgot it. It is White Pearl from the House of Oud. The egg is so pretty. It is this sort of pearlescent swirl of like this what looks like mother of pearl material. It's not, but it has that sort of look to it. Very, very pretty. And so this fragrance has been described as a little bit salty, marine, and super clean smelling. And I think that is right, except I really want to accentuate the clean smelling aspect of this. If you liked fragrances like White Linen, Picovaya Dama from Xerjoff, some of the Chanel aldehydes, picture any manner of predominantly soapy aldehydic fragrances. Now, strip out whatever you think people don't like about aldehydes and take the cleanest, sort of purest aspects of beautifully soapy, clean smells. Elevate that up like 100 floors. Add this airiness to it. Drop in like 10 doses of sophistication, a hint of saltiness, a hint, and a little bit of the clean ocean air, just a dash. It doesn't dominate at all. That might give you some sense of the feeling from this fragrance. I remember thinking when I put it on that it was like the most elegant, clean, super refined smell. Oh, another fragrance that comes to mind that maybe compares in terms of vibe, Musk Chamal from Armani Privé. If you've tried any of those clean smelling fragrances, White Pearl is not musky, but it has a sort of beautiful, like uber elegant cleanliness, the freshness in perfume form. This is luxurious. Now, I will say that probably into like, I don't know, somewhere past the half day mark, the composition changes just a little bit. It becomes a little bit more dull and flat. But that first sort of half day experience is glorious. So this is beautiful, and I highly suggest getting your nose on it, get a decant, see what you think of it, and if that sort of clean vibe works for you. Y'all have heard me talk about this fragrance in previous videos, so I'll keep it brief and short. This is Widian's LUBAN. I really like this bottle. It has almost like this ambery grayish, like the inside has this gray reflect, and then there's this sort of ambery, maybe bronzy, I don't know, taupey combination of something happening in the glass bottle. Very, very pretty. This is a fragrance that I have described as smelling maybe odd, not bad at all, but odd when you first put it on. You're like, ooh, I'm not quite sure what's happening here. And you got to give this about 15 minutes to settle in, mesh with your skin chemistry. Don't bother spraying this on your clothing. In fact, I would say the same of most of the Widian fragrances. They are a lot better and they blossom. It's like they like bloom and evolve and open up with the warmth of your skin. And this is primarily an amber, soft amber, and very soft vanilla fragrance. It is closer to the skin. I believe this is an extrait de parfum. So, by the way, as I've always said, extrait does not mean that it is stronger than eau de parfum, that it is longer lasting and more projecting. It just means there's higher oil concentration, and it's not unusual for extraits to actually be a little bit softer to the skin than an original version. There isn't an original version of this. This is all that Widian makes, these extraits. So, anyway, this is, again, speaking like of white pearl, this is enormously luxurious. One of the like most elegant, edited, beautifully done vanilla and soft amber fragrances. Really, really beautiful. I don't know how else to describe this because that's kind of all that you get. When you look at the notes, you're expecting a lot more. So forget about the notes. Cardamom, strawberry, different kinds of roses, gardenia. I mean, it goes on and on. White musk, cedar, sandalwood. For me, soft, delicate vanilla, one of the prettiest, most sort of restricted, restrained ambers together. Boom. The way that I usually describe this is like I have put on some of the most luxurious lotion known to man. It has a super creamy, soft texture. It's like that's captured in a bottle. Then I mentioned that I was going to talk about Yum Pistachio Gelato 33. Long names to these fragrances. I really do love the color of this bottle. There's something really interesting and compelling about this particular shade. And I love that they put the notes on the back: pistachio gelato, hazelnut, sweet rum, whipped cream, marshmallow, cotton candy. I would lean on the last three fragrances as the description here: whipped cream, marshmallow, cotton candy. This is one of those fragrances. I tried it on in Sephora. I was like, that's okay. Typical, nice, sweet gourmand, whatever. I went to watch Hamilton. This was in Norfolk, Virginia with my son. We had gone down there for the weekend. And I'm sitting there and I happened to like put my hand up to my face. And I was like, what is that smell? That is the most beautiful thing. And it was this. This settles down into one of the prettiest, most cozy, hug in a bottle, cocooning. I don't know what glorious type of magic is in here. Really, really good. I love wearing it. It has this sweetness. The texture of this, not the smell. Let me be clear because somebody's going to go, it doesn't smell like that. The texture, not the smell, reminds me of men's shave cream, like Barbasol. When you spray that into a hand and it's just like mushy and soft and cloud-like and moussey. This has a very moussey texture to it. I do get something that's in the neighborhood of like, if you think about the creaminess of marzipan, there's no almond in here, but that is the sweetness that I get in this fragrance. I don't really pick up like a pistachio scent. I've eaten a lot of pistachios. I know what they smell like. I know what pistachio gelato smells like. I don't get that. So marshmallowy, the texture, not the smell, of shave cream. What else is going on here? Whipped cream and that cotton candy type of texture. Creamy, creamy, creamy. Beautiful, beautiful. Love this. Long lasting, by the way. Long lasting. Another major crowd pleaser in my house. I was surprised that I got so many compliments because I've worn this before, and I don't think I've heard from all three family members that still live here with me, my husband, my daughter, my son, that they really like the way that this smells on me. This is Bond number 9, New York Nights. I love this graphic here that represents the skyline of New York. I like the reflective blue bottle in general. The reason that this fragrance is really interesting is because a lot of people have described this as gourmand. A lot of people have described this as smelling like banana bread. And maybe sometimes I can get that. But this bottle has been in my collection for a few years now. For me, the gourmand notes come through less than maybe some of the floral and musky touches of this fragrance. So people talk about this being a warm caramel coffee fragrance. You can get some of that sort of sweet background nature of this, but I do think this has this very soft floral nature more than the gourmand notes. I feel like those are especially as it dries down, the floral notes are more pronounced than the gourmand notes. It is rather sweet and it does have some woodiness as well. I don't see musk in the note structure, but this has a sort of very lightly musky feel to it. And it's just really pretty. I know it's hard to imagine what this smells like based on what I just said. So think of a very soft floral with some gourmand background notes and a little bit of woodiness and an overall slightly musky feel. Apparently, everyone here loves this. They couldn't stop complimenting me on this when I wore it recently. This next one, people used to love this, and it has sort of fallen off of the radar, and it's really sad because it is gorgeous and it gets better and better and even more beautiful the more that it sits in my collection. This is the original C. I have the C Intense 2, which is absolutely like a stunner. Beautiful, soft, feminine, super sweet, almost cloyingly sweet, like almost. This is primarily for me a really sweet, lovely, very feminine, very sexy vanilla, bolstered and surrounded by this gorgeous woodiness and some touches of very soft patchouli. I think this is one of the sexiest fragrances. Husband loves this on me, projects well, lasts all day. Think vanilla backed up by woodiness with some of the mystery that I was gonna say tobacco, that patchouli can add to a fragrance. You know, this is the kind of fragrance that every time I put it on, I remember how beautiful it is. So yes, beautiful. C. Love C Intense too. Okay. Friends, that brings me to the end of the January Fragrance Awards. I hope you enjoyed. If you are still here, can you put a little snowflake in the comments so we know you stuck around to the end? Take care. See you in the next video. Maybe tomorrow if you watch for the sale video. See you then. Take care.